And he had heard that Mark Victor Hansen had a bank for kids where they could go and borrow money. And so Tommy decided he needed $468 to print these bumper stickers, which is quite a large sum. And so he talked his dad into taking him to visit Mark. And the dad was worried, like, Mark, I'm not sure Tommy's going to be able to pay you back. And Mark said, I believe Tommy will. So he loaned him the money, and he also gave him some of his motivational tapes. Well, Tommy listened to each tape over and over again. And he began his campaign. And one of the things the tape said was, start at the top if you're going to sell. So he lived close to where Ronald Reagan, former president, was living at the time. And so he went to his house and he knocked on the gate. And the gatekeeper came and he gave him his 2-minute spiel. And the gatekeeper bought a sticker, even though he didn't get in to see Ronald Reagan. But then he sent a bumper sticker to Mikhail Gorbachev with a little invoice for $1.50, which is what he was charging for the bumper stickers. And he got a check back from Mikhail Gorbachev, and it said, "Go for peace, Tommy," and signed his name. Well, over the next 2 years, Tommy kept doing his campaign of selling the bumper stickers. And Joan Rivers heard about it, somebody on her show, and so she actually called him up and said, "Hi, Tommy, this is Joan Rivers. Would you like to be on my show? I'll pay you $300. He goes, "Great." And he said, "But when you fly me to New York, will you also fly my mom? Because I need her to come with me." And she goes, "Of course." And then he goes, "I've been told that the Trump Plaza is the best place to stay there. Would you arrange for that?" And she said, "Sure, Tommy." And then he said, "Oh, one more thing." He said, "My mom doesn't drive, so could we have a limo?" So Tommy was doing pretty well. And on the show, she interviewed him, and then she asked him, "So, Tommy, how do you think your campaign's going? Are you getting any success?" He goes, "Well, we got the Berlin Wall down, didn't we?" So, it's like even someone small can make major jumps. The universe always says yes to what we believe. So it's our job to think about what we're believing, what we're thinking, and make sure it's what we want. We live in Silicon Valley. It's filled with people who've started new businesses from nothing. Many of them started in a garage. What they started with was an idea and a belief, and then moving forward. In the Bible, in Mark 9:23, it says, "All things are possible to him that believeth." And in Matthew 21:22, we are told, "Whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive." So why not jump? Well, when I think of the situations we seem to face as people in this human experience, one of them sometimes seems to be a challenge about money. And there's a story about a struggling young writer who was almost broke. This story is from Positive Imaging by Norman Vincent Peale. And he didn't know what to do. He was writing a book and he didn't have any income. And so he thought, my uncle's rich. I'm going to ask him for a loan. So he sent his uncle a telegram and asked him for money. And the uncle sent a telegram back. And in large letters it said, "Have head examined." And at first he was a little annoyed and offended. But he began to think about it. And he thought, it's probably true. It's something about the way I'm thinking. Well, the idea came to him. Instead of writing a book first, he would start with a short story. And he got a really good idea for a short story. He wrote it, he sold it, and he was on his way. And he ended up being a Pulitzer Prize winner. There's also a story about Helen Street. Some of the people who went to Asilomar over the years were privileged enough, as I was, to hear her speak. And she was a real character. But she was human just like the rest of us, and she went through a stage where she had hardly any cash at all. And she was really feeling stressed about the money. And she knew the principle of tithing, of giving 10% of your income, but she wasn't having any income coming in. She also knew the principle that everything is the law of circulation. So she felt like to get herself out of this stuck position, she needed to give something away. And she had a beautiful, valuable painting. And so she gave that painting to someone she cared about. And that's all it took for her to get unstuck, and the money started flowing in. So the idea is, we're not helpless, although sometimes we feel that way when things seem to pile up. But we can always get a new idea and move forward, and the universe responds. Now, another thing that seems to happen to us humans is, even though we are spirits, but we're in this human body, which I'm grateful for, but sometimes we worry. And I was worried about someone I love last week. And I woke up in the middle of the night and the worry started going through my head. Now, I know what we need to do is treat. And so I was starting to treat, but I was really stuck in this worry. So the best I could do was a short treatment. Divine right action, highest good. And I just lay in bed and I just said it over and over again. That's really the middle step of treatment. But knowing that there is God and I am one in God. And being grateful for all the good. I just kept saying divine right action, highest good, and knowing that's the truth. In the morning I woke up, a different perspective I had, and the situation changed. There was a British industrialist who had an idea of how to handle worry. Because of course, worries come up periodically. And what he did was he had the worry club. It was Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So every time he started worrying about something, he'd write it down on a piece of paper, put it in the box for Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Wednesday at 4 o'clock, he'd sit down. He was the only member of the club. And he'd go through the box. And what he found was about 90% of the things he was worried about had resolved themselves.